We will fight for full return of $5 billion Abacha'S Buhari. Welcome to the news, and please subscribe to our channel to get notified when the post hot juicy news update. Please click on the notification bell. Can somebody tell these people to leave that money so that the incoming government could fight for use and do better thing? I use God name to beg these people. The news in detail. President Muhammadu Buhari has said that Nigeria will not relent until it recovers all the $5 billion stolen from Nigeria by the late General Sani Abacha and his family and stashed in Western countries. He also stated that Nigerians are delighted by the news that 72 artifacts known as the Benin Bros held by the Honeyman Museum in London were returning home 125 years after they were stolen by British troops. In an opinion piece in the Financial Times of London, Buhari said the clamor for repatriation of looted treasures is becoming irresistible. According to him, there was once a similar clamor for the return of the African stolen assets, and he sees both as part of the same struggle to bring back to Nigeria what is rightfully ours. According to Buhari, countless billions siphoned from the continent by corrupt former leaders remain stashed in Western bank accounts. Although Nigeria has arguably been the most successful among African nations in securing the return of stolen money, it has recovered only a fraction of what remains in the West. Earlier this year, Nigeria was forced to take legal action against the United Kingdom National Crime Agency after repeated delays to the return of money taken out of the country in the 1990s by former dictator General Sani Abacha. He, however, said that the court case reveals the scale of challenge before Nigeria, stating that Abacha is thought to have siphoned off up to $5 billion to the West. Buhari said this case concerned just 150 million euros. According to him, given the levels of corruption across Africa, there will be concern as to whether funds returned will be used appropriately. He said, but we should not forget that it was through Western jurisdiction that the money was laundered in the first place. Not trusting Africans to spend their own money properly echoes the argument that we cannot be trusted to look after our own cultural heritage. In the case of both looted cultural heritage and stolen assets, Western museums and authorities largely seem to agree that the loot should in principle be handed back. However, the technicalities of repatriation leave plenty of room for maintaining the status quo. Museums say that treasures should be returned if it can be proved that they were looted. Of course, they argue it is a different matter if artifacts were acquired through purchases and other legitimate means. But it is the same museum that are responsible for assessing the provenance of artifacts. They have a vested interest in keeping them, encouraging a lackadaisical approach and murky criteria. The president said that in 2025, a new museum will open to showcase the treasures of the Kingdom of Benin. Designed by Ghanaian British architect David Ajayi, the Edo Museum of West African Art will sit in Benin City, the former capital of Edo Kingdom. But without the return of more bronze held in the West, we may struggle to fill the museum, he added. President Muhammadu Buhari also added that Nigeria also had an infrastructure gap to fill, as the World Bank and other international developmental institutions have highlighted. Though my administration has undertaken the largest infrastructure program since our country gained independence, the hold-up in repatriating stolen assets held in the West will now make it difficult to finance new projects that will help to alleviate poverty. In 2017, Switzerland returned $321 million to Nigeria's social investment program to fund the National Social Safety Net. Monitored by the World Bank, the money has now been disbursed through conditional cash transfers of 1.9 million Naira of Nigeria's most vulnerable citizens. 3 years later, the U.S. and the British Channel Island dependency of Jersey returned $311 million to the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, managed by the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority. The first project financed by the fund, expressways and bridges, are due to be completed later this year. With stolen assets, the precise means by which institutions return such funds, whether they deliver them to the state, a government, an ad hoc fund or some other body elicit endless discussion rather than action. We know corruption persists across Africa, as it does across the world, but we cannot afford to wait for unspecified progress to be achieved before this money is released, he added. $3.65 billion loot returned to Nigeria in 24 years, BBC report. Meanwhile, the total amount of looted funds recovered from late head of state General Sani Abacha in the past 24 years has been put at $3.65 billion. This was reviewed by an infographic by the BBC with data gathered from the federal government, World Bank, and Transparency International. It showed that while in 1998, a total of $750 million were recovered from the late head of state family, in year 2000, $64 million was recovered from Switzerland. In 2002, $1.2 billion was recovered from the Abacha family. In 2003, $160 million and $88 million were recovered from Jersey and Switzerland respectively. And in 2005, another $461.3 million was returned to the country from Switzerland. Also in 2006, Nigeria received another $44.1 million from Switzerland. In 2014, $227 million was recovered from Liechtenstein. In 2018, another $322 million from Switzerland. In 2020, a total of $311.7 million was repatriated from the United States of America. And also recently, an agreement was signed for another $23 million to be sent from the USA. Buhari meets freight train attack victims, orders service chief to replicate Northeast feet nationwide. Meanwhile, in other news, President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday in Kaduna directed his service chief to replicate the successes recorded in the fight against insurgency in the Northeast in other parts of the country, boasted about the unprecedented acquisitions in the military platforms and hardware in the past few years. Addressing the passing out parade and commissioning ceremony of cadets of 69 regular corps, Army, Navy and Air Force of the Nigerian Defense Academy (NDA), the President, in a statement by presidential spokesman Garba Shehu, listed comprehensive and systematic acquisitions by his administration within 7 years, describing them as unprecedented in the past 38 years of the Nigerian military. From the beginning of the news, the active for the stolen assets of Nigeria, as the government, as there's back and forth discussions on whether to bring it back or not, are they prepared? Are they proactive enough to prepare a place already for it so that when it comes, it goes there straight? You know, that thing can be a point of tourist attraction, which can be converted into revenue for the country. As for others as well, the loot recovered, they should be giving the Nigeria money in batches, as in according to what is and do. I'm telling you, people will retrieve the money. They should hold on to it, and it is going to be for a health sector. They should make sure they use it to better the health sector, and they should be held accountable down to every cost.